There are several general hazards that we encounter during our work operations. Although they do not occur with all of our work sites, they are extremely important to be aware of. Workers who encounter these situations have to take special care when working in these situations. Sometimes we encounter situations that may include harmful gases. Sewers or storm water systems are examples where the air quality must be tested before entering. If the area lacks sufficient air or is of poor quality, the spaces will have to be ventilated. Using compaction equipment in a trench may expose you to high amounts of carbon monoxide, or a vehicle running and the exhaust is pointing at you when you are working on the ground. Be aware, ventilation and turning off equipment can be the simple answer. Weather extremes can impact our work sites every day, and we have to be mindful about the physical effects of hot or cold temperatures, as well as other weather events that may occur during the workday. Since much of our work occurs outdoors during the summer in Calgary, cold and heat extremes are a major factor on our work sites. We recommend that you check the daily weather forecast before coming to work so you can dress appropriately for the weather. The two most serious heat-related illnesses are simple heat exhaustion and heat stroke. The symptoms of both can be found in your safety manual. If not taken care of immediately, they can lead to an emergency situation without much warning. Remember, drink plenty of fluids and find shady areas during breaks. The sun can also have a large impact on your work. You should always try to wear loose-fitting clothing, using sunscreen, and wear CSA-approved sunglasses. During cold weather, dress in layers and be mindful of the wind chill. Congested work areas often occur because we don't want to impact surrounding traffic or property. So please be aware and make eye contact with equipment operators and other workers who may be around you. Do not park your private vehicles on the job sites.
I bet that traffic is probably like their biggest issue.
Oh, you think so?
Well, yeah, like they got to control the public safety. They got to put up all these signs. I see the barriers on the side of the road up there. A little bit further down the road, there's the guy holding the stop and slow down sign. I bet it's probably the number one concern is traffic when they're doing their work.
They should maybe have that in their program.
Yeah, I think, do they? Do they have that in their program?
They got it right here at Section 21.
Oh, isn't that good?
Yeah.
Right? That's
so
amazing.
You're kind of a genius, aren't you?
I'm probably the smartest guy in the history of the world.
Traffic is our single biggest hazard, and we encounter it daily. Protection of the public and our workers is the primary concern when setting up traffic control zones. Only qualified personnel following city specifications will set these control zones or direct traffic flow. All workers will stay within these protected zones while working. Please be aware of the hazards posed by vehicles both on and adjacent to the work sites and have a planned escape route. Your supervisor will review these hazards with you. Utilities, such as underground or overhead electrical, water, gas, cable, telephone, and other utilities pose a particular hazard and must be dealt with as per government legislation and industry standards. When the site-specific hazard assessment identifies overhead utilities as a hazard, we must follow our safe work practices and control this hazard by the use of signage and personnel to act as spotters to ensure equipment does not encroach on the safe limits of approach as outlined in the OH&S code. If in doubt, make sure that you have at least 7 meters of clearance between you or the equipment and the wires. Underground utility hazards will be identified as following ALSA's safe work practices and calling Alberta one call, 1-800-242-3447. They will mark the underground lines before any ground disturbance occurs. Mechanical equipment will not work within the 1 meter buffer zone beside the line until the line is exposed by hand first. There is a 14-day expiry on any markings made, so check the date on the locate slip, and if work is not completed in the hazard zone, your supervisor will organize for new locates to be completed. When backfilling underground utilities, we may be required to notify the utility owners so that they inspect the process. Your supervisor will inform you of this. If a line is damaged, stop work immediately, notify your supervisor, and this will start the emergency response plan. Ensure the risk to people and property are kept to a minimum. If possible, turn off equipment and then evacuate to the assigned muster point and await instructions from your supervisor, company safety manager, or EMS personnel. Make sure that you have reviewed and know the international color code for marking buried facilities. These colors identify where and what type of utility or pipeline is buried. Example, natural gas is indicated by the color yellow and electricity by red. Never place concrete form pins in the buffer zone until you have hand exposed the lines or use other methods to hold the forms, such as sandbags, portable parking curbs, or bracing, which is pinned outside the buffer zone. When excavating and tunneling, there are set guidelines outlined by the Occupational Health and Safety Code, which your supervisor and workers must follow. A hazard assessment will be completed and reviewed with you, which will identify the types of soils that you are dealing with and what controls will be necessary to complete the task safely. This may mean cutbacks in the soil, placement of the waste piles, and the possibility of trench boxes or shoring that may be required. These specifications and job procedures can be found in the black safety box. Confined spaces. During road construction, we occasionally need to work in underground confined spaces, such as sewers or storm water catch basins. You will have to be trained to work in such an area. A hazard assessment will be completed identifying potential dangers and the required PPE, and then a confined space permit will be issued indicating the testing requirements for lethal gases or sufficient oxygen levels before entering. Emergency support personnel will be on top at all times during this activity. Fatigue management policy. The employees at ALSA Road Construction work long hours in a physically demanding atmosphere. This can lead to worker fatigue and stress. All workers must have a minimum of 8 hours of rest between their work shifts and must have 4 days of rest within a 28-day cycle as outlined in the Extended Work Permit, as issued by Alberta Employment Standards. ALSA will train all employees to recognize the signs of fatigue and stress and how to minimize it. They support open communication for all. If you're stressed out or fatigued, talk with your supervisor and let him know of your situation or speak with human resources. This can become a lethal combination if not dealt with and could lead to your being impaired while trying to do your job. There is no room for impairment on our job sites. We will monitor our employees' work hours to ensure that they are within the guidelines, and you, the worker, must ensure that you are fit for duty each and every shift. ALSA strives to ensure everyone is working in a safe and healthy environment. Working alone. We need to minimize the risk of workers when they have to work alone. The first step will be a hazard assessment, reviewed and signed by the worker. Safe work procedures must be in place. The worker must be deemed competent to do the work and to be alone. The worker must have the appropriate safety supplies, i.e. PPE, first aid kit, spill kit, flare kit, emergency phone numbers. The worker must also have a dependable form of communication, either a two-way radio or cell phone. The worker must also have a scheduled time for check-ins with the supervisor or main office, if the supervisor is not available. If a call is not received, we will activate an overdue employee procedure. Last-minute risk assessment, or LMRA. Industry experience shows that safety incidents are results of a momentary loss of control, which results in an incident. The outcome of the incident is unpredictable. Therefore, we cannot control the outcome of the incident, and it is irresponsible to rely on luck. Thus, we must work to prevent the incident in the first place. The primary way to do this is by encouraging workers to identify hazards that may occur and do assessments on how to eliminate these potential hazards. Simply stated, risk management is meant to identify, assess, eliminate, or control through action. We will identify the risks in an activity by using the 1, 2, or 3 rating. There is a great need for eliminating or controlling these assessed hazards. The controls and worker involvement in the specific activity can be coordinated to better reduce these risks. The last-minute risk assessment is an effective tool when each worker can answer these questions throughout the workday. What task is the worker doing? What are the hazards involved in doing this work? What are the controlled measures being used to reduce or eliminate these risks? Workers are encouraged to inspect their worksite continually, stop and think, and work in a safe manner. From this easy assessment, we can attest that the potential for injury or incidents is greatly reduced. Management is responsible for establishing an environment for safe behavior, and the worker is responsible for behaving safely. So we encourage you to participate in the acronym ALSA. A. Awareness on the job site. L. Learning continually. S. Safety for life. And lastly, A is for Ask Questions. There is no such thing as a silly question. If it's important to you, then it's important to us.